one.
Okay, what do you do with that? What is the ruling on that? How funny.
I've wondered whether you might be having some second thoughts about the mission. Dave, may I ask you a personal question?
Saved a par.
Rumors about something being dug up. I never gave these stories much credence.
Oh, I totally gripped like that, dude. I was sitting there looking at this.
Open the pod bay doors, Al. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. What are you talking about? This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Not bad.
Dave, do you mind if I ask you a personal question? Dave, do you mind if I ask you a personal
Oh.
Dave,
Wait a second, what was that again?
Muy frío in here.
Frío.
I've wondered whether you might be having some second thoughts about the mission.
Come on now. Oh, man.
Rumors about something being dug up.
Start giving advice to John again.
I never
Make that
gave
butt.
these stories much
Make that
credence.
bet. What do you think? Advice for John
For John,
right now?
stop thinking. It only hurts the team.
Oh.
All right. Sunday, I saw the craziest shot with this dude. It was, what's his name?
Fling Show. The Fling Show.
Oh, well, welcome to the Fling Show this evening, folks. Thank you for joining me and my wonderful co-host, David Himmeline. Last week was a very difficult week for me. Do apologize. I was extremely under the weather. And then I decided to say, tag, you're it to my partner and pass this along to him so he can enjoy this wonderful ride that we have been on for the last 6 days. We kind of think it might have been the Parliament trip. We're not really sure. However, that was a wonderful concert, good times had by all, but came down with something and have been recovering ever since. But before we get started, folks, on the show this evening, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Lone Star Disc, the only disc made and manufactured in the great state of Texas. And my goodness gracious, how many discs are they making? My head explodes every time I turn around. They've got more and more. So, but we want to thank them for all that they do in our area, putting on some wonderful events, some things coming up. Big B tier in September, $10,000 added cash. Sign up is live right now on Disc Golf Scene. Go check it out. It's going to be a B tier in the Conroe area using 4 different courses. And I do believe part of the course is going to be their own 9-hole course that is on their property as well. It's going to be a blast. Well, my friend, it's good to see you after what we have been through.
Yeah. Twilight Zone. This is my first time, by the way, to see Parliament and to bring home with me and as you did too, something, I guess it was the COVID, first time. Is it? How about you? Have you
That
been
was the
through?
first time to see Parliament. Of course, I'd seen Fishbone on many occasions, which I
Yeah.
was so excited to see them. And I'm so glad you got to see them as well, because my goodness gracious, that gentleman is 3 years older than both you and I. And he had the
Ah,
energy of like a 20-year-old. And
they were amazing. I loved it. I was like, and not just the performance, but the crowd was crazy. You mix reggae, ska, funk from the 70s with the 90s funk, and you got something really cool. You got a really unique audience. I had a blast, and I guess paid for it dearly, but great
yeah, for
time. I
those
want to
of
thank
y'all who
John. I want to thank
Mhm.
you for inviting me, all that stuff. I'm not regretting it whatsoever. It was a lot of fun. But
Yeah,
man,
most people don't know who Fishbone is, but they are the godfathers of funk punk. Basically, they've been around since the early 80s. I got to see them in the late 80s, was the first time I got to see them with Primus. I got to see them with Smashing Pumpkins, got to see them with the Melvins. Just an amazing live band. But definitely that punk, ska, like you said, funk, but very, very talented musicians as well. And then the godfather of funk came out. And if I could be 81 years old, like George Clinton, and have that much energy, that was amazing.
and directing, everybody, he pretty much sat most of the show. He sat, and then he would get up and direct everybody, but the everybody is like the 20 people that are on the stage. It was really an interesting group of people, and like you said, some talent. He introduced one guy as being like the new George sort of thing, that at the first of the show. And that guy was good too. But then the guy with the hair, he was, oh man, they were off the charts. And
Yeah, I tried to look him up actually. He's a Houston kid. And what a talent he was. He was mesmerizing. You couldn't keep your eyes off the young man, along with the fact that he had what looked like about 4 foot blonde hair dreadlocks. I mean, he was just so gregarious and so just he was there to entertain, and boy did he entertain, that's for sure. And it's kind of funny, you being in bands, to see that many people on stage. It's amazing. I think at one time he had to have had 20.
at least 20. I counted 20. And there were probably more because there were percussionists in the back that I couldn't see from my angle. But what a cool night in the Petri dish. and we paid for it. I paid for it. You paid that night, and then I paid for it that night too. Got sick, and note this too: if none of us were drinking, and maybe that was the problem. We should have been drinking at least water,
we found out. I found out the hard way once again. Not drinking water at the opportune time really did the number on me. I'm very fortunate. Thank you to that young gentleman, rather large young gentleman at the show who helped me out in my time of need. I do appreciate that for sure. But yeah, that water is such a thing. And that kind of gets us to where we are now with how hot it has been. It has just been brutally hot, except for, and I know you were up this morning. Was it not
Oh, it's
amazing?
beautiful.
Around
Yeah.
6 o'clock this morning, I stepped outside and I was like, this feels like fall. This is a touch of fall.
Yeah. Hey, let's see, I took a picture actually. I was gonna send it. Oh yeah, there it is. Let's see, 76. It's like, and that was at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
So yeah, it had already warmed up 5 or 6 degrees by then. But yeah, it was really nice, and just hang in there, or just do
Spend the
like
night.
Chris and I, get COVID and just check out for 2 weeks. And because I actually, we talked about this earlier, you and I actually liked the heat over the past 7-8 days. I needed it. It's like I would get chills inside, and then I'd go outside, so yeah, enjoyed it. But man, be safe out there, guys. It's nuts. And watch your doggies if you're walking your dogs in the heat. Wait till the shadows come. Wait till it's 7 o'clock. It's not even dark yet. So walk your dogs late and early. And that's what we've been doing.
Keep them hydrated, just like yourself. But
Yeah.
just make sure we're all keeping hydrated. It's always what amazes me in Texas, that we still get out and you still see people playing disc golf at all times of the day, even in this heat. So you just can't take that for granted, because it comes on you quick.
Yeah, it does. Sure does.
You pointed out something kind of fun over the weekend, and I kind of poked a little more fun at that. And I kind of came up with about a list of 4 things that pretty much drive disc golfers crazy. And I think that yours this weekend reared its ugly head in one of the strangest one of the strangest ways in a competition over the weekend. And that is the spit out. It is amazing to see how many spit outs there are, especially at the high level. So kind of reel us into what you saw this weekend and kind of your thoughts on what Mr. GB went through.
Well, the one that made me make the post on our Fling Show page on Facebook was the last putt, or second to the last, should have been the last putt for Gannon Burr, and it was just the championship, 20-footer, and it spits, and that look on his face was hilarious, and what a classic, class guy, class act, because he never said anything about the basket, never dissed the basket or anything. And that, I'm not out to diss baskets or anything, or, put anybody's company down for making a crappy basket, because it just happens, it certain putting styles fit certain baskets in different ways, and vice versa. And people have different, when I put that message out there, I found a lot of people hated the Prodigy baskets. Like that was their least favorite. And to me, the Prodigy basket with the kind of mesh design, I have a practice one like that, and the cheaper model, I don't know the model of it, but it has that kind of mesh thing. And they don't spit through at all, so why do people hate them? Because they don't spit through. I don't, I'm not really sure what the deal is with the Prodigy, but for me, I posted that probably my least favorite would be the dynamic disc. What's it called? This guy, I can't remember, the Patriot. Like they're top of the line, the one that they use on the tour and stuff. And and it seems to be modeled after the disc catcher. Innova's disc catcher, it seems to be like that. It's got a lot of chains, like the Pro 28 is the one you and I worked with Griff to give away for our putting contest a while back. No, that was pre you when I used to do the putting contest. We gave away the Pro 28 because to me that's the best one, and that should be the standard. Is that for some reason it catches all forms of putts, it just kind of and it doesn't overdo the catch, so then I found out a lot from my post. One thing is that Mach X, I always assumed that was Innova's, there's a Pro 28, I think, or some version of it. No, that's just a single chain 12 chain. Anyway, the Mach X is DGA. That's the one that they have out there. A lot of those out there at Spring Valley. That's the one they put on. And that's not bad, but I've seen those, people who who normally would hang up an am side putt, it'll push those right out of there. You know, if you hit weak side, those Mach X's, they don't allow you to kind of cheat one in there. Whereas the Pro 28 will, you can kind of hang one in there on the wrong side of the basket and they'll go in sometimes. But no, I mean, I heard here's a comment that about back onto Gannon Burr, which I thought was interesting. When he was being interviewed afterwards, the question was, Terry Miller asked him if it was possible that one player would post 50% from C2 for the season. And Gannon Burr was like, it's possible, you know, but he goes, I pretty much putted about as good as I can putt last season. When he said that, I was like, that's confidence, you know, that's a statement right there. It's like, I putted as good as I can putt. And that wasn't overconfident either. He was speaking the truth. So he said he put up numbers putting wise that were about as good as he could do. And I thought, wow, that's a guy who knows his game right there. You know, that's the guy to watch right there. But I was thinking before we started this show today, I was thinking, you know, I watched a lot of that Pro Tour and I watched him putt all day. And at some point, I'm a little bored, you know, I got to say, because I know it's going in. You know, he's got a 35 footer. It's like, okay, I can go get coffee, you know, go fill up my cup. I don't even need to watch it. You know, there's something kind of boring about what he's doing. I don't understand why my mind thinks that's boring. You know, the guy doing something no one's ever done before. He putts like it kind of reminds me, him and Heimberg, it kind of reminds me of a level Ken Climo. Like Ken Climo would throw these bombs from way up in the sky. And so these guys have done that same kind of motion where they're putting the nose down and shooting it. I call it the apex putt, but they're doing it in a quicker way. Whereas his would come from, you know, way up here. I mean, he would bomb these putts in from, you know, atmosphere. But so it seems like what they've done is they've taken the Ken Climo and sort of made it quicker, made it faster, you know, and more efficient and more wind, you know, durable in the wind. And that was the comment Gannon Burr said too, is about C2 numbers 50%. He goes, it's all about the wind. You know, if you get a 45 footer, if the wind's up, I mean, that's an element. You got these wind bounces that you can't control that. You know, it's kind of a guess because you can't really see the wind. You can feel it. But if you notice too, Burr's always got that powder, you know, so he's seeing it. You know, he's the only one that I see that's consistently hitting that powder and watching what the wind's doing to it.
You know, you hit something on the head with me as well. When I was watching the last couple pro events, I found myself bored at how easy it looked from Ricky Wysocki and Heimberg. It just didn't really matter which guy it was, but basically from 35 and in, just like you said, I was like, ring it up. And that's odd considering I know how hard it is, right? It's extremely difficult to do what these gentlemen are doing. I wish for the tour's sake, like we had talked about, there's a couple of things we'd like to see them do, something that marks it on the ground that gives us a better idea exactly how far out they are, but a gauge of the wind, almost like what video games do on the bottom left-hand corner, where they give you how strong it is and the direction in which it's blowing for that player at that time. I think that those are some things that obviously with time, money, more people, more engineering, I know that the process is not easy, but I think they would add to the enjoyment for us as viewers, because you're right. I mean, if they drove off the box, you know, they go, oh, if the commentator even says, oh, he's touching circle one, automatically in my head, he's made that, you know, as a viewer. even though I know as a player how difficult that is, it kind of speak to that a little bit. What you think might help the pro tour as far as getting that kind of information to the viewer?
Yeah, I think they experimented with some flags, that would blow, a certain color would pop up at a certain miles per hour. There were like 3 or 4 levels of color, and the harder they blew, the more. I think that's one solution that would really help, because then you just visually see it. You wouldn't have to have an announcer or any kind of graphics or any kind of any kind of technology other than just sticking a flag on top of the basket. That would help. But yeah, I think as we grow, just like we've, like you and I have always wanted more drone footage. Now we're getting more drones, and as the sport grows, and believe me, from what I learned last week at the shop, and the numbers, and how much you can actually make off of disc golf, and how much what's out there, and money wise, what's coming into the sport. Then it's a new sport, so everything is just kind of booming. So yeah, it'll happen. They can have those graphics. Do they do it in golf? Do they need to do it in golf? You got the green undulation, stick golf I'm talking about,
Right.
do they do that with wind, like in video games? I know in video games you got the wind, you can see the wind direction, but I don't know if I've ever noticed it on coverage, live coverage.
Yeah, you're right, because most of them you'll see the guys looking up into the trees, right? They'll be trying to see that. I've oftentimes seen them where they'll put them on the stands. So they put like wind gauges behind them where people are sitting, and so sometimes there's something up there that kind of gives you an idea of a flag.
But no graphic kind of like, technology.
No, but they do have that, they always had that chase flight, which is always nice. That helps out a whole lot, especially off the drive. I really like that, because I lose it off the drive, even through drone footage. Sometimes I'll still lose disc every once in a while.
They could use that more, or they could use that, like the Jomez
flight follower.
Yeah, follow flight that Jomez does, and they in their post coverage they use, but they could do it live too, and it would be helpful. One thing you can do is you can YouTube some of the previous Las Vegas Challenge and dynamic discs, and watch some of those wind tournaments, because to me that's where it gets interesting. I've seen that's when I first started watching coverage and post-production coverage, and Jomez and stuff. I caught one of those Las Vegas challenges where the wind was blowing like 40 miles per hour, and it was Eagle and Wysocki, all the same kind of names. I think it was pre-Heimberg. He wasn't on the scene yet, but that's where it got interesting with putting. That's where it piqued my interest. Because like you said, we kind of, unless there's a guy struggling, like Gossage was struggling and should have won a couple of tournaments. I've seen his putt kind of like falter under pressure. So that's interesting. You watch that guy, you're like, okay, now what's he going to do? Whereas Heimberg, you're like, oh, I'm going to go get my coffee. He's going to make that, so. But yeah, so wind and elements, and I'm not a fan of rain. I don't like watching rain golf because I know how hard it is on the competitors. It's really not. It kind of takes the soul out of it for me. It's not like watching rain golf in Ireland, on the stick golf tour. It's different, because you get your hands on the disc. It's such a disadvantage for somebody without a caddy, or somebody low down the tour who didn't happen to have a caddy or didn't bring enough towels, or it's just like, it's kind of deflating to me to watch rain golf in disc golf.
I agree. I don't mind if it's cold. I don't mind if it's wet. I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind if it's cold, and I don't mind if it's windy, but I don't like watching them play in the rain, because to me, I kind of equate it like basketball. who in the heck wants to see somebody playing basketball in the rain, right? You just,
Exactly.
it's not, you're outdoors at wind. It's just it's not a fun environment. It's one of those things where you want your competitors to at least be able to use the equipment properly, right?
Exactly. And
And
that's,
just
yeah.
off,
And
yeah.
because you've thrown a wet disc and and you're not Mikey Siebert who can throw wet frisbees and do well in the rain. So yeah, it's I prefer 20-30 mile an hour winds.
You know what
That
was
makes it interesting.
I will say this, I found it interesting because I found myself when it was wet watching how the players approach using their disc, right? Where some would grab the disc they were going to throw. That was always going to be dry, and they did not take it outside the towel until they stood up and they putted or shot or did it, whatever they were going to do.
Mhm.
Same thing with picking up their markers, making sure that they were using not throwing hand, right?
Yeah.
And I found myself watching the routine of the good players of how are Stokely. Matter of fact, I was watching him because one of the rounds he was playing just recently, it was raining. And I was really interested, how he handled that and what he would do. Obviously, it's a quick tempo. Here's my umbrella. So he's up there, he shoots, he's back, but everything remains dry in that one hand. I don't like watching that type of golf, but it was interesting to see how they each prepared for it and what they would do in the nuances of the shot itself, because you and I have both thrown wet disc, and it oftentimes become much more of a adventure as the round goes along, right?
Mhm.
It's usually the more rain as it goes along, you start losing that focus on how am I going to make sure that I keep my hands dry in this same routine and still be confident, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. I learned that from watching the tour guys that, shorten your routine, shorten your steps. Everything changes. Just keep that disc under your shirt. Don't take your normal time, running up, just get up there and throw it. And you have to kind of like put aside your normal routine concept for that grip. And I completely understand that. It's all for me. It's all about the grip and the feel.
Well, I
That
like what you
disc.
said too about shortening your steps.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's stand and deliver. Oftentimes I saw that approach for the guys. Now them standing delivering at 350, 400 still, so it's not too difficult. But for
Do you
us
watch that
others,
guy the guy that what's it they call him, KJ USA? What's his name? Anyway, he's one of the tour guys who throws it exceptionally hard. In fact, he threw that ace in that he almost broke his knee that time in the rain and slipped. Like, that guy falls all the time.
he does.
Notice he
Yes.
falls. He likes to fall. I think he's like MMA kind of disc golfer. He just I'm gonna fall. I'm gonna throw this and fall. Kind of interesting. Yeah, back to the spit thing. Let's talk more about the basket concept. So the spits happen because people have different putts, and every basket spits in certain kind of ways, but the disc catcher. I mean, what's your favorite of the five? Like I listed disc catcher, which is the Pro 28. I listed the Mach X, which is Spring Valley has the pink ones. Listed Prodigy, and I listed Dynamic Disc, which Moffett. I think they have those out there. Moffett.
I prefer the Prodigy disc, and then the Prodigy baskets, and then also
Like the green ones out at Northside on the retention
dynamic.
pond.
I like those two as well. Probably two of my favorite.
Yeah,
We don't play on very many of the as you were talking about, where the chain that's squared off all the way around it. It's more
that's the Prodigy. That's the retention pond
right.
Baskets. Yeah,
We don't get to use very many of those, but those are the ones that I like.
Oh, you like those? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what my
I'm just saying
practice
I don't
basket is.
remember them being anywhere else. If I'm trying to remember courses we play often, I don't remember those being offered, but I like those the most.
What about
Also don't putt. I don't putt up and down. I tend to putt a little more,
Flat.
I try to now. But I can see where that up and down putt is definitely like when I putt with Travis, sometimes his goes in, almost noon to 6. It's just almost straight like this. And I'll see him go through the chains quite often,
Yeah.
and almost hit the pole. And
Mhm.
it's, I guess, I remember the interview we had with Yeti when he was talking about, you have to change your putter
Definitely.
sometimes to the basket.
Definitely. And that back when I was playing Wynwood a lot, back when I first moved here, they had the 18 chain what Mach 2, I think they were called. DGA Mach 2. And so they didn't have as many chains. And it's the same ones you have out at River Plantation, except for that one basket. They have a Pro 28 that a generous neighbor supply. You remember that one?
I remember that.
And it's still there, but the rest of them are those Mach 2s that have 18 chains. And so when I was playing there, that's when I made that decision. I'm like, if I'm going to play this tournament, because I played a lot, and I'm like, I'm going to have to putt different. So I started throwing lower, and I'd hit chains lower, because if you hit the heart or the meaty part of, just 18 chain, and you throw it pretty hard, which I do, it's a good chance it's going to spit through, which I got a lot of spits back then.
Mhm.
But so you change your point of attack, you change your angle, you change your speed. And that's another thing too, that when I was really practicing a lot and putting all the time, I would not only practice putts, but I'd practice tempos. And so I had a system 1, 2, and 3. 1 being my normal, because I didn't want to think about my normal putt. I didn't want to have to put a number on it. So 1, whatever I'm throwing, that's my normal. And then slow it down would be 2. And then more slow even than that would be 3. And so I'd have those 3 different tempos. So I'd practice, 20, 40, 100 putts or whatever, but I'd also practice them at different tempos and also different angles, different ante. I think that's why I developed a pretty decent ante putt, because I practiced it. I'd practice a hyzer straight, don't spill the beans putt that what's her name used to talk about. Christiana used to talk about don't spill the beans. That putt, I'd practice the flat. I'd practice the pitch putt. I'd practice all different kinds of putts. So I think that's important, because people get stuck on what they do putting. Like so many people get stuck in a rut. Oh, this is how I putt. Well, what if there's a tree there and you have to putt different? Then you can't do it, or you have to throw an ante putt. And you can't do it because you don't practice it. So it's important to practice everything: tempo, angles, speed, different baskets. It's good to know all the different baskets. And here's another thing too. My metaphysical point of the day is when I moved to the Zebo's area in Fort Worth, and they had the Pro 28s with the that I talk about all the time, the disc catchers, and I hated that yellow band. I hated it. It was like, for some reason it was in my head. I hate that sound. I hate these baskets. And then I realized this is gonna be my home course. I'm gonna have to love those. And so I tell that story all the time, because it's important to love all the baskets because they'll eat you alive if you don't.
Yeah, I find my biggest problem with the basket isn't really the chains, it's the basket. I have got a relationship going on with me and the baskets, and I got to break that relationship. I would like to have spit outs. I would like more spit outs than basket hits, because at least I know if it's a spit out, it had a chance to go in.
Mm-hmm.
And the
That
basket,
wasn't necessarily your fault.
yeah, I mean, the basket hit is the fact that, yes, I got it straight. Yes, it's at the target. Yes, it's at least in the realm that it should be, but there's no chance for it to go in. So when you posted that spit out thing, I kind of had to throw into, which do you dislike the most? Is it the spit out? Is it the basket hit? Is it the roll away where you put something well, it hits, and then it just decides that it's not going to, it's going to leave you further than you were when you shot the disc?
Yeah.
Or is it the out of bound tree hit? I mean, which one of those four things would you say of your round can kind of give you that, man, that was more like,
I hate the basket hit, and then the roll away. That just whatever that just happens.
it
And it's
happens when
also
you hit the basket a lot. Trust me, because I hit the basket a lot and it rolls away. So it's like a combo thing I get with that. If it just hit and went down, that's something. But it usually hits and then it says, "No, let me show you how bad this can really turn out for you."
and it seems like you never see that happen with the Heimbergs and the Wysocki's and all those. You just don't see them rolling away like that. But the other thing too is the plan for the roll away is like on the way you putt. If you're on a hill, we'll figure out a way to land that disc hillside and not against the hill. So like say you got the hills here and you want to run at it to where, and that goes again back to what I was saying about practice all different angles. So that's something I learned when I was in Kansas City. A lot of hills out there, believe it or not, big hills. And so I learned that you put your disc on the angle of the hill. So if you're going to putt, say this is the basket, say this microphone is the basket, and the hill's here. Well, I don't want to throw an ante here, because if I miss it, there's a really good chance it's going to roll. But if I throw it hyzer here and I miss it, it's probably going to fit the slope of the hill. And so that's an important thing, and it's something that we don't think about out here because we don't have hills. So but I learned it really quick because you get those massive rollaways like that. But so Jim Backus is commenting on the miracle. He said, I'm amazed at how talented players are when a putt gets over 40 to 60 feet longer. It seems like a miracle. That when I was really playing well, I used to have that feeling a lot where I was like, God, that just went in. And it was like surprising all the time. And I wonder if the Burrs and those guys, if they surprise themselves or if they just get used to it. Because to me, to Jim's point, it always felt like a miracle for me. Like anytime and also just watching putts at putt night out at Spring Valley, and you're watching a 60-footer, watching AP hit a couple of 60-footers in a row or something. It just seems so miraculous. It's like, it's something about, and that's the magical part. That's why we love it,
Yep. Hey,
because it is miraculous.
You're gonna have to keep this going for a second because I gotta go to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, right on.
Go ahead.
I will vamp on that one all day because the whole idea of throwing miracles is why we play. That's why we go out. That's why we love the ace so much, because it's a little mini miracle. That's why we putt 500 putts a day, because you can create those little miracle moments. Yeah. So putting is the best thing you can do for your game. Putt, I would say, let me tell you my routine back in the day. I would average out of 7 days, I'd average 3 of those. I would try to get to 1,000 a day. and the other ones I would throw at least 500. And then as I got into tournaments, I would back off completely. You need to go through those reps, but don't find yourself repping leading up to a tournament. That's when you switch. That's when you switch it over to upshots, put out all your upshots. So anyway, I was just talking about putting routines and this and that, just kind of making up stuff as we go. But so what else do you got tonight? I think we hammered it pretty good.
I do want to give a little shout out because we're going to try to do something a little old school that hasn't been done in our area before. Meanwhile, we are going to be throwing a free event on Labor Day. So check this out, about a minute and a half.
First up, we are throwing a free, you heard me right, free event on September the 2nd out at Stonebridge Church. Now, the purpose of this event is to bring together all the newbies, all the regulars, all of the old schoolers, and just come out and remember why we do what we do. We're out there to have fun, to mingle, to meet new people, and we really want to promote a sense of fellowship on that day. Really want people to come out. We're going to be giving away all kinds of CTP prizes, a little bit of mingling prizes, no official sign up registration, anything like that. Just show up that day. We're going to flex from 9 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon for the last card. And so we really would like to see everybody come on out there and just bring your friends, play around at disc golf, stop on by the booth. It'll be right there by hole 1. Really all about celebrating the fellowship and the camaraderie of the local disc golf community. So we hope everybody comes out.
Awesome.
That's what we got coming for Labor Day. You let us labor. Y'all come and enjoy your day. Get out there. We're going to have fun, prizes. Just going to mingle with the cards. Maybe we'll have a few Southern Star libations as well. But something just to kind of give back to the community around here on Labor Day. So that's what we've got going on. And that's all I have for today. And I am just, again, so glad that you and I had the opportunity to talk. Because after these, like you said, this last week, it has definitely been a trying time. So I'm just so pleased to be able to get back at the show. Can't wait to get back out there and start playing. I know you got a wedding, you said, this weekend, but we'll have to get out there once you get back.
Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow. We're gonna head out to Lone Star tomorrow and check out what they got. See what's in the shop right now.
Yes.
Play some. Not too much.
No, we'll have to throw something in the air because that's what we do here. But I can't wait to get out there and see what they've got that's brand new because I got to re-up a few things myself. But until then, you make sure Carrie's doing well. I'll make sure Elizabeth is doing well. And I'll see you tomorrow, my friend.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night. We'll see Mikey rolling. Hey, guys, y'all go throw something in the air. Till next time. It was always fun to see Mikey rolling. Peace.